Hello, Internet. I'm Hugo.
Brains. It's a joke about brains.
Is saying a thing a joke now? Is just saying a word a joke?
Brains. Is that better?
You tried a little harder. I'm still not sure it counts as a joke. But anyway.
Remember that time that black guy died at the end of that movie in the 60s? It was the guy that made that movie died.
Yeah, George Romero, father of what we know today as the zombie, has died. He died, I believe, a brief battle with lung cancer is how his family described it. He died with family around him, all that stuff, so don't be too sad about it.
It was a good death, a valiant one. He was riding a horse.
Let's talk about the contributions George Romero has made to film, to horror, maybe to the world in general. So, of course, Night of the Living Dead comes out in the 60s.
You've seen it, right?
First... Are you talking to me specifically or them? Of course I've seen it.
Them.
Oh, okay. Rhetorical questions. Not my strong suit. So, makes that movie, and for those of you who don't know, it essentially cemented what we now know as the modern zombie. Prior to that, there were some films that depicted some sort of zombie, but they were more like voodoo zombies. White Zombie was a film. I believe Bela Lugosi was in that. There was another one that I Am Legend is actually a remake of that I think they call them zombies, but they're more like vampires. Vincent Price is in it.
The one after that has Charlton Heston. It's called Omega Man.
Yeah. Omega Man was a remake of the original. But, of course, Night of the Living Dead came in and introduced the corpses rising from the dead, eating people, all those things. Things you think of when you think zombie.
The Walking Dead doesn't happen without Romero.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. To the extent that literally in the Walking Dead universe, they had to write out Night of the Living Dead and George Romero so that people don't know how to survive zombie apocalypse.
Robert Kirkman talked about that once, and he didn't necessarily delete it from the universe, but in his canon, that never got popular. So some people know about zombies, but very few of them have ever seen this really rare, like not even cult classic, like just forgotten film. So it did get made in the universe, according to Kirkman, but he never, it never got famous or anything. Night of the Living Dead to me is it's just a really great film. It's the beginning of the actual horror genre we know now. Like it's kind of there was classic horror where it was kind of like Cat People or Night Stalker. Like those are really good films. If you've gone to film school or taken a film class, you know those films. Psycho is up there. They're good horror, although Psycho is very close to this. They're great horror movies, but this kind of like moved it toward like, oh, we can show gore, like genuine gore. We can talk. It's political. It's like the black guy is the main character, which is weird. They kill a kid in it. It talks about like government collusion. It's kind of like one of those, like it culminates in the 60s, and there are other films that have these elements and that probably have done it, but this one was like such a cult thing. It's the Star Wars of horror to me.
I have a couple interesting tidbits about some of the stuff you just said, actually. Firstly, the MPAA, I believe, became a thing like the year after this of Night of the Living Dead came out. I don't know if they're related in any way, shape, or form. Wouldn't shock me, though. The MPAA is, of course, the organization that rates movies, G through NC-17 as we know it today. And secondly, this is secondhand info I got from Red Letter Media, so if this is incorrect, please send an official postmarked letter to Jay Bauman. Just write Milwaukee on there, I think, and throw it in a mailbox. No one lives there except for them. Anyway, according to him, at least, I think he said George Romero didn't even cast the main guy in Night of the Living Dead, or the one that gets shot at the end, and of course it's famous for the whole racism angle. He didn't cast him because he was a black guy. It was just he liked him the best, and then in hindsight he went, oh. So I don't know.
That makes me really happy.
I don't know if that's true or not, but based on his later works, I'd believe it. I don't know if George Romero had the thought to say, oh yeah, he's a black guy. I don't know. It's the kind of thing that fell into place later, not immediately. But anyway, Then, of course, Dawn of the Dead came out, which took it to the whole other level. That's the one that people typically think of. The Dead Rising series is obviously aping off that. The whole trapped in a mall with zombies, taking it over, clearing it. Great movie. Better special effects than the previous film. I think everyone kind of holds that up as, you know, the zombie movie. There are probably better ones, but that's the one that people typically look at and say, here's a lot of those tropes. And then finally, the last of the original trilogy, Day of the Dead, which is Tom Savini's special effects masterpiece, in which there... Have you seen any of these sequels, by the way? I'm sure you've seen Dawn of the Dead, but did you see Day of the Dead? Fewer people have seen that one.
Is Day of the Dead the one where they're in the bunker with the helicopter? Yeah, yeah, I've seen it.
Underground bunker, and there's scientists and military, and they're kind of clashing, and they have a zombie that's maybe getting a little more intelligent. It's interesting. I definitely check that one out, if for no other reason than for the effects. Tom Savini, who worked on effects,
it does work. It's really nice. By the way, that plays on IFC and or Sci-Fi a lot. That's where I've seen it. I've seen it probably 2 or 3 times on IFC specifically, I think. Yeah. So, really, really fantastic movie. It's got a very satisfying end.
However, I know this is going to be a little weird. Okay. Jake, have you seen Monkey Shines? Because I want to talk about Monkey Shines, which is...
What the fuck is Monkey Shines?
Which is one of Romero's other films. He made more than these zombie films, for those of you who don't know. I'm sure you've heard of all these films from one point or another somewhere. You might not have heard of Monkey Shines, though. Monkey Shines, I think he directed late 80s. Might have been 88. I don't know. Monkey Shines is a horror film about a man who becomes paraplegic and then gets a helper monkey. However, the helper monkey is being aided via science and injected with human brain material, and it's making the monkey smart and evil. So it ends with basically a climax between a man who can't move his arms or legs in a wheelchair versus his evil killer helper monkey. And if any of you have not seen Monkey Shines, now's the time to see it. If you've already seen Romero's other shit, and you're like, I want to see something a little different to honor the guy... Monkey Shines is a lot of things. You can describe it a lot of ways, and the word I'd use to describe it is fucking entertaining. I threw an adjective in there just because it's that entertaining. So please go see Monkey Shines. I'm not going to tell you how it ends. I'll tell you afterward, Jake, because you're not going to fucking watch Monkey Shines. But go watch Monkey Shines.
Maybe we'll watch it together.
Maybe. So, George Romero, thank you for your contributions. I mean... Really, when you think about this, I'm trying to think. I forget who brought this up. Could have been James Rolfe, Cinemasker. He does tons of horror movie reviews. I don't remember. But someone brought up, basically, zombies are the only monster in modern memory that whose creator, basically, is still alive. And that was George Romero. Because think about it. Dracula, Frankenstein... The Mummy, a lot of those, you know, I mean, The Mummy was an original creation, not based on a book or anything, but that's a little different since it was an actual thing. But zombies, as we know them in pop culture, were created by George Romero, and he's been alive this whole time, and now he's dead.
I'm trying to think of monsters, like famous monsters. Like, you could argue, like, stuff like the Babadook, but we're, like, culturally speaking...
Yeah, we're talking about the classic ones that are sticking around.
Is the guy that wrote the Daleks alive? Or actually, no, that was the woman. Was that the showrunner, the woman that did the Daleks?
No. That was a totally different guy. But I wouldn't count that because that's more a sci-fi villain. That's specific. That's specific to a franchise. I'm talking about just general monster that anyone can pick up and write about. And Zombie was it. Zombie was the last one.
That's got to be the last one. I'm sure. There's one out there, but yeah, it wouldn't be nearly as culturally significant.
So, the last creator of like our cultural monsters, what we consider monsters, is gone, and that's a little bit sad. But I think it's a good time to look back at his movies, see why we appreciate them, and see why even today one of the #1 shows on television is The Walking Dead, despite it sucking for like the past 4 or 5 years.
Ooh, shots fired. I don't think it sucked for 5 years. I just think, like, it got a little long-winded in itself. It didn't have AMC did the opposite of what they did with Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad could still be on. The ratings would be there still, but they told their story.
What season are they on Walking Dead?
6 or 7.
If it's 6, I was right. It's been bad for 5 years.
Wow. I liked season 3 and 4, I think.
Great little Walking Dead mini-series you did that one year, guys, though. That was great. Anyway, so until next time, I'm Hugo.
I'm Jake, and I officially disagree with Hugo on that assessment.
And also, you started this episode by saying brains. Actually, zombies eating brains specifically does not come from George Romero. That comes later. Return of the Living Dead.
What was that last? What was that last thing? What was that?
I don't know.
Okay.